Broncos country, what is up? I'm the Kodiak, and today I'm here to talk about 5 reasons why the Broncos offense has struggled so far. But before getting into it, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already. You always wait till the end. Hopefully, I'll have earned it. Yeah, without further ado, let's dive right into it. So, here are the main issues with the Broncos offense. Like, our offense can erupt. Like, we've seen a couple eruption quarters, but for the most part, throughout the games, we have just not been an efficient offense at all. And that's really disheartening because I thought, based on what we saw last year, when I would always talk about this team, I was just like, all right, having Ingram, having Dobbins, having upgraded Troy Franklin was going to help the offense be more efficient. And if that meant losing some of the explosive play capabilities, I was fine with that. But last year, we had explosive play capabilities without the efficient offense. But this year, feels like for most of the time, we haven't had the explosive plays either. So that's what I'm getting at. And I think a big part of the reason why we need to take a big long look in the mirror is because Payton is still calling the games like we have September Bo Nix. Now, I've been a very stark defender of Sean Payton's play calling throughout this entire season because I didn't think Nix had played very well this year. And I thought that, based on everything we saw, I didn't blame Payton for calling the offense super conservative. But he is calling this team so conservative the past 2 weeks that it makes Jeb Bush and George Bush look like they're members of the Green Party. All right, that's how conservative Sean Payton's offense has been so far. And listen, this past game was just absolutely ridiculous with the screens, too conservative with the football. You took this quarterback 12th overall. At a certain point, you're going to have to let him sink or swim. And when he has let him throw the football, taking the training wheels off, for the most part this year, after the Chargers game, it's been pretty good. It's been a pretty good, whatever. So, yeah, overall, I think Sean Payton is one of the GOATs in season adjustments, and I've been saying that a lot. Maybe as copium, maybe as a fallback, but we're in week 8, okay? We've had a long time to figure this out, and next week, when we play Houston, we're going to have played 9 games this season, so we're almost halfway done with the NFL regular season. Don't hyperventilate when I say that because that's scary to think about, but people want to see Davis Webb, and that's not the solution here, okay? Sean Payton, highest points per game in NFL history as a head coach, okay? Now, you could say whatever you want about Drew Brees, but the reality of the situation is that doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen because you're a bad coach. That doesn't happen because you're a bad play caller, all right? Bad play calling, my boy Mark said, is an easy cop-out because it's something that's really hard to prove, when you see people say bad play call, it's something that's hard to prove, whether or not the offense checked out of it or not, whether they audibled or not, but yeah. So, Payton has been part of the problem the past 2 weeks. I think he's been fine the rest of the year, but I do have my issues with Sean Payton as a head coach this year, but as just a pure offensive coordinator, I think he's been fine except for the past 2 weeks, and I think he'll turn it around easily. Number 2, the execution is just absolutely laughable by the role guys, all right? It's not all on Sean Payton, okay? If you look back at the tape from the Giants game, a lot of screens were there. They just weren't executed, okay? And yeah, should we not call 80 million screens a game? Sure. But we'd have drops, we'd have missed throws, bad snaps, missed blocks. And the missed blocks one is a big one because, there are some role guys that are here strictly to block, like Troutman, like Prentice, like Sherfield, and they have not done a very good job so far this season. And, it's something that I honestly feel like this team did a better job of last year. I'm not saying I missed Lil Jordan Humphrey, but there are some blocks that Sherfield's missing that Lil Jordan Humphrey definitely would have made as well. And Wattenberg, his snaps have been so erratic. Like, I was a huge Wattenberg defender over the offseason, and I still think the hate is a little overblown because I think he does very well. He's done very well in his tough matchups so far. But the snaps are just getting laughable. They're ridiculous, and they're destroying our quick game rhythm. When Bo Nix has to, jump up and then he has to sling it to the flats, and then there's already a defender waiting in the flats. Like, that's a huge problem as well. And I'm just seeing a lot of poor effort from the role guys as well, even when everything else is fine. Troutman has just been awful. Like, I thought that Troutman had his place in the NFL over this offseason. I was like, all right, good role guy for us in 2023 and 2024. But the reality of the situation is he just has not been good this year. Like, and he's taken a huge step back. He's still one of those guys where if he's wide open and there's nobody by him, he can still take it for 15, 20 yards. But that happens maybe once every 2 or 3 games. And yeah, overall, I just don't think Troutman is going to be on this team next year. He's playing his way off the roster. Sherfield is one that's really disappointing because I thought, they rely so heavily on experience and, having an adult in the room. And I was very impressed with what I saw in the preseason from Trent Sherfield, but he's been a complete non-factor. Like, he has been. I don't notice him making any blocks out there. I don't notice him making any plays. So, yeah, non-factor so far. Adkins and Prentice, I like them as guys that are on our team. I like them as, dudes, but I like them on a roster that's 3 firsts and 3 seconds removed from the roster because of trades for your head coach and trades for a quarterback that didn't work out. Those are the kinds of guys I'm talking about. Like, all right, those are bottom barrel NFL roster players that, honestly, because we were so resource strapped, we kind of had to dip into that basket. And you know what? Because we haven't had the capital to really go out and upgrade these bottom of the roster guys, it's still bad on the offensive side of the ball. Now, defensively, whatever, but Adkins and Prentice are just straight up Jags. All right. Number 3, penalties continuing to be a huge problem. Okay, it seems like the offensive side of the ball is cleaning it up, but this is a huge problem for the entire team. The Broncos are second in penalties committed and first in yards against. Okay, drive-killing penalties have been haunting us all year long. Okay, you think about the Chargers and Colts games. Good chance we win both those games had we not been penalized in the fashions that we were in the fourth quarter. And we were committing legit penalties, so there's nobody we can blame except ourselves. I am stunned that we're 5-2, despite all the drive-killing penalties that we've had, despite all the, inopportune penalties we had, the very untimely penalties we've had. And the thing that really hurts me about this is that Sean Payton prides his units so heavily on discipline and execution. Now, flags on the offensive side of the ball are way up this year. Second highest rate since, I believe, 2005. So flags on the offensive side of the ball have been rampant this past offseason. And for a unit that, Sean Payton's system, it takes a lot of mental capacity to grasp. So it's not the easiest system in the world, and I guess you're seeing the results of it right now. Now, I don't think our offensive line has been called with that many penalties either, but whenever they do, it's pretty bad. It's a pretty bad situation. You think about Miners 2 weeks ago in the end zone against the Jets. You think about, what was that guy? I forget who it was week 2, but they got the face mask. I think that was actually Troutman, if I'm not mistaken. And then you think Wattenberg, week 4. Like, that was a huge, huge problem for us, and it continues to be a huge problem for us, okay? Had we not clutched up against the Giants when it mattered the most, the talk of that game would have been the penalties. And yes, I understand, phantom DPI, phantom roughing the passer. You still should have been so much more disciplined throughout that game, even if they were calling it in the Giants' favor, which they were. But yeah, Sean Payton, he prides his units so heavily on discipline and execution, and there's been very little of that this year. And that's why, once again, I don't have problems with him as an offensive coordinator. Or I do, but I think those are a little overblown. But as a head coach, oh yeah, I have my problems with him. 4, too many non-factors being deployed in key situations. Okay, once again, I'm not here to just harp on Troutman this whole video, but he's been just awful this year, man. I don't mean to scapegoat him and say that I've been, just watching him with magnifying glass, but he has just been bad. Flat out bad, even after, having his place on this team the past 2 years. Sherfield, nothing burger. Ingram has been disappointing so far. You can blame whatever you want on the Ingram thing not working out right now, but the reality of the situation is it just hasn't been that good so far. Now, I think once they unleash Bo a little bit more in pure dropback situations, I think Ingram will be better, but yeah, I've already touched on this. Adkins and Prentice, complete Jags. Sutton, Franklin, Mims, Ingram, Harvey, or Dobbins. That's it. That's your passing game personnel. Do not overthink it. All right. I understand wanting, a bunch, adding Troutman in there to chip the tight end. I understand wanting Prentice in there, Adkins in there, on a money down to help give some pass protection. But just leave Bowles and McGlinchey on some islands, dude. Those are really good tackles. They've played really well this year, so you got to trust them in those situations too. Either way, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. That's it. Just instead of targeting Kroll on these money downs, which I haven't even thought about what's going to happen when he comes back from IR. I don't want to think about it. Overall, that's what I'm feeling there. And the reason this is frustrating to me is because there's nobody for the front office to blame except themselves, and here's why. Everybody on this team who's a passing game weapon has been brought in by Sean Payton. Everybody on this team that is a part of our, passing or our offensive personnel has been brought in by this current front office regime. So George Payton and Sean Payton. And that's a huge indictment on the front office because if you don't trust these guys well enough to put them out there when it really matters the most, if you don't trust Mims, if you don't trust Franklin, you traded up for both those guys. So that's a huge indictment on yourself as well. Number 5, sorry, it got cut off a little bit. Hold on, let me adjust my camera. Number 5, teams are cheating underneath to counter Denver's lack of aggression. Now, disclaimer, I don't have any stats to actually back this up, but it's just one of those things that you just have to watch and notice, okay? I tried to find stack box rates, but I couldn't find any. But this is another one where I just don't get the lack of aggression, okay? I don't get the lack of aggression because they don't respect our deep ball. And we haven't made them respect our deep ball. Last year, we were hitting the deep ball a lot. And we were hitting it in crucial situations. We were hitting it in crucial moments. And there are a lot of games that we do not win last year without a big passing play. But we have not had any success throwing deep this year. And I got it early on. I got it early on this season because Bo Nix, once again, was struggling. But we don't need to keep calling this offense like Bo Nix is struggling because defenses have adapted. And what's the saying? Adapt or die. So against the Dallas Cowboys this week, you have to throw it out. You have to air it out. And if you can't throw it against the Cowboys, it's a huge, huge, huge problem. And we're going to be talking about this again. And, we hit so many big plays last year, but we haven't tried, or I think we've tried a little bit, but not as much as we did last year. And we've been relatively unsuccessful. So I don't get the supreme lack of aggression lately. I think it's either it's too extreme. Usually it's been too extreme with this offense for the past year and a half. Like, it's either too conservative or too aggressive. And we need to find a healthy balance between the two. Because once this offense really gets firing, it's going to be great. And we're going to be a very hard team to beat. But it is week 8 right now. It is week 8. We're headed to play against the Dallas Cowboys at home. And Sean Payton, the thing that frustrates me is he sold this as a Super Bowl contending team. Now, the defense, absolutely. The defense can go toe-to-toe with anyone. But the offense remains to be seen. But either way, that does it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Mile High Salute.